guys, this is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about Bugonia. This is the new Yorgo Lanthimos film. I recently saw this last week at the Montclair Film Festival, and it's coming out pretty soon by the end of October, and I think it's a perfect time to talk about this movie because I've been thinking about it for a few days ever since I saw this. And it's something that I think is very reflective of our times today. So let's kind of dive into the plot of the film and kind of go a little bit deep into it without spoiling it. I will try not to spoil it, but if I do get to that point where I spoil the film, I'll flag, spoiler alert. But yeah, let's get into Bugonia. So Bugonia is basically about a conspiracy theorist named Teddy, played by Jesse Plemons, and he kidnaps a high coveted CEO of a pharmaceutical company, Michelle, played by Emma Stone, and Emma Stone is trapped inside of Teddy's bunker in the basement alongside with Teddy's cousin, who is autistic, Don, played by Aiden Delbus, which is basically his first role in this movie. And from there, you have Don, Teddy holding Michelle captive underneath this bunker, and it's a whole situation where Teddy believes that Michelle is an alien from outer space. The way she talks, walks, presents herself in the outside world kind of flags Teddy to believe that Michelle is an alien from outer space. And this causes a whole rift between Michelle and Don and Teddy. And the whole film is basically playing a lot with conspiracy theories and how humans have evolved from, harmless conspiracy theories like believing in aliens and UFOs to other stuff that is very nonsensical and quite frankly very harming to the entire human race. But this film goes super deep into those psychological tendencies when it comes to conspiracy theories and feedback loops and going down the rabbit hole to the point where you can't pick yourself back up and be a normal quote-unquote human being. And this is at a time where we're witnessing a third of the country believing in baseless conspiracy theories and things that aren't believable but really capture the essence of the depravity of humanity to a point where all of humanity is basically lost and completely eroded from rationality and just empathy and sympathy for others. And I think this film really does a great job honing all of those themes in while also being a very entertaining and probably one of the most accessible Yorgos films to date, in my opinion. I think it's right up there with Poor Things as far as really capturing every single theme at a perfect point and also just making it feel real, but also at the same time, very entertaining. So I'll say this, I think Jesse Plemons gives one of the best performances of the year, easily one of the most top 5 male performances of the year. And I think it's probably his best performance since Like Mike and Breaking Bad. And here he's playing a few sides with his character. In the beginning, you kind of empathize and sympathize with this character as he's someone who is completely broken and lost in the world. And Teddy, his mother is sick and was part of the trials of experimental drugs that Michelle created for their company. And Teddy's mom is completely sick and stuck in hospice and ready to die from everything that has happened to her with this drug. And that kind of sparks a whole rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and just hell on earth for Teddy's mental psyche, and that causes him to kidnap Michelle and throw her in the bunker. And Don, who is neurodivergent, slightly autistic, he's still kind of aware of what's happening around Teddy's own kind of mind, but also at the same time, he doesn't understand why this is happening to Michelle and why this whole conspiracy thing is happening around him. But also at the same time, he wants to help his cousin, Teddy, because he loves Teddy. And that's the only person that he really cares about. And I think Aiden Delbus' performance in this film is very great, and I think it's probably one of my favorite debut performances that I've seen so far this year. And his whole story arc is very just real, and it's very a type of thing that I see a lot in people. And I would also say the same thing with Emma Stone, who's playing the high coveted CEO of a pharmaceutical company. She is very mirroring a lot of high coveted CEOs like Jeff Bezos, the guy who got slain by Luigi. Just CEOs who do not give a fuck about humans and just only want to care about profits over people. And again, this film really dives super deep into that. Even from like the beginning when Michelle is trying to be, on a level for everyone where she's trying to get everybody out of the office by 5:30. It's a whole comedic bit where she's just like, yeah, like you can get out of the office by 5:30, but if you don't want to, it's fine. You can continue your work. And that kind of plays into the movie near the end of the film. But also at the same time, Michelle, once she gets kidnapped and trapped in the bunker, the first thing she does is try to rationalize the situation in a very patronizing way. Like the tone of her voice is very patronizing. And Teddy, of course, doesn't buy it and wants to really torture her to the point where Michelle eventually kind of like gives up all her senses and tells Teddy that, yeah, I'm an alien, or really, I'm an alien in quotations, to kind of ease the situation. And these conversations continue across the entire film, especially in the middle section, where it gets really intense and you see Teddy try to break from the conversation that they're having, and it just doesn't work because he's really like in the deep hole of conspiracy theories to the point where, again, he can't be rationalized, he can't be quote unquote deprogrammed by the baseless claims of what he's trying to say to Michelle. It's just, it's already there and he can't kind of like break out of it. And Alicia Silverstone is Teddy's mother, and she's great in it. She has a lot of cool moments, especially with like the flashbacks where it turns into like a German expressionist black and white dream flashback sequences that are sprinkled throughout the film. And it does the same thing Kinds of Kindness did with like those like weird flashbacks and also Poor Things. And Yorgos, again, like his direction is very lived in, very attentive. There's a lot of scenes where you're just watching people talk in this bunker, but it's very like intense and very expressive. And I think that's mostly also due to the screenplay by Will Tracy, who actually appeared at my screening for this film and explained a lot about like the process of making the movie with Yorgos. And Will Tracy also wrote a couple episodes of Succession and The Menu. And I think this is his best screenplay to date. I wasn't a big super fan of The Menu. I thought it was beating itself over the head with like the capitalist themes, but I think here it works better here because maybe it's because we're living in it right now and I can see and tell and hear like everything that's like happening with the whole anti-capitalism themes, and just also how corporations are profiting over people, and capital is the only thing that works and moves around in this current economy. But yeah, I think this film, like the screenplay, is very detailed, layered, and it's not like preachy to a point where you're kind of like rolling your eyes the whole time. It still feels very real. And Stavros Halkilis, who is a Cumtown podcaster, he appears as a police officer in this film, and he's one of Teddy's closest friends or past friends, and there's a thematic in the film that kind of peels even more of a deeper layer with Teddy. Once that, moment is revealed, you kind of have a different take on how Teddy is dealing with the situation, but also at the same time, you're kind of like, man, I feel bad for him, even though he's really crazy. But yeah, overall, I thought this movie was it was fantastic. It lived up to my expectations. It played super deep into like the whole idea of like, is this person really an alien or not? I won't spoil what happens at the end, but it is something to be experienced, in my opinion. So yeah, I give this a 4.5 out of 5. I don't want to go deeper into this film because if I do, I'm going to start spoiling it. But yeah, man, this was just fantastic. I know some people are kind of like light on it or kind of like lukewarm about the film. I think it's probably because the third act is a make it or break it situation. Either you're going to ride with it or not. And I think the ride is definitely worth it. As far as like awards prospects, I think this film can be saved. Right now it's kind of like in a lower position priority for Best Picture and Best Director. and the acting categories, but I think now, since you have some flops that are kind of falling off, like Springsteen and The Smashing Machine being another one that kind of just like fell off, I think Bugonia has a great chance of picking up, especially when it gets to the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, and other places. And sure, we don't really need to nominate Emma Stone for Best Actress, or I think it's Best Supporting Actress. I think it's Best Actress because she's the only lead actress in this film. But if it does happen, I'll be happy because I think it's another great performance by Emma Stone. But I'm actually more worried about Jesse Plemons because I think his performance in this film, again, is like probably one of the best performances that I've seen from him in a while. I mean, he does really great performances every time around, but I think this is the one where he deserves to get Oscar nominated for this type of role. So I really want it to happen. He's like kind of like the 6th position right now, but I think he could be like the 4th position right next to Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon, which I actually saw that film. I kind of want to like review that film also as well. But yeah, I think Jesse Plemons, like his performance in this is really great, and I hope he does get that Oscar nomination. Aside from that, screenplay would be really nice. Cinematography, direction would also be really great. But yeah, I think this adaptation of Save the Green Planet is much more nuanced and very kind of lived in and very sensibility likewise for our American minds. And I think, again, this movie is just, it's fantastic. Definitely check it out. If you're a big Yorgos fan, like, of course you're going to see this film. But if you're kind of like standoffish about like the concept alone, give it a chance. Give it a chance. You'll definitely be surprised and definitely be on the edge of your seat watching this film. So yeah, that's basically it. I will be reviewing more movies in the coming weeks. I've seen a lot of movies off of the Montclair Film Festival, and maybe I'll do like a big wrap-up video just to kind of give a lot of my, thoughts about the movies that I saw at the festival, or maybe just do individual stuff. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but for now, like, subscribe, share, do whatever you can to spread the word out for this video and other videos on my channel. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Peace out.